right. Thank you, and good morning. Is this on? Okay. I am so excited to get to be here today and just tell you more about my story and how I got here, just like Jess was saying. And just on that note of what she was saying about grad school, the awesome thing that I didn't learn about grad school until I started my bachelor's degree is that most of the time, you can get paid for doing science. So I don't know about you, but getting to learn more about science and getting paid to do it is definitely a bonus. So I am getting paid through the National Science Foundation, but most of the grad students, if not all that you'll meet today, are actually getting paid either by Penn State or through some organization. So ask more questions if you want to know more about that, because grad school is definitely attainable for everyone. It doesn't have to cost money. But I kind of want to take a step back and tell you about what do I do as a scientist? What does being in grad school mean? Because normally if I say, oh, hi, I'm Jen, I'm going to be a doctor someday, people expect that I mean a medical doctor, and then they start telling me about the rash on their arm, and I have to backpedal really quickly because I don't want to hear about it. That story that Laura shared about the poop everywhere, no, 110% not what I want to do, and I am not going to be a medical doctor. I would much rather play with chemicals. So, okay, let me clarify. I'm a scientist. Well, then sometimes people get this image in their mind of some kind of crazy mad scientist that works alone late at night, throwing chemicals into a beaker and hoping something explodes. That is not what I do. I'm our group safety officer. If things explode, I get upset. And not to brag, but I also think I have slightly better hair than this, so I just don't think I fit the crazy scientist mold. Okay, you're a scientist then. Let's watch TV and figure out what that means. If you're a scientist, you must be a little socially awkward. You're probably a little introverted. Surprisingly, no. I love science, but I talk a lot. Sometimes I have to be careful in the office with my coworkers because I love to just sit and talk and chat with them. And I have to remember that I'm there to do science. So no, that doesn't quite fit either. So what do I do in grad school? The answer is a lot of things, some of which I didn't even imagine doing in grad school. The first thing that I do, which you probably could guess, is that I'm here to get an education. I'm getting a higher degree, and that involves taking classes and learning a lot. But that's not actually just sitting in a classroom. I actually finished my classes in my first year of grad school, so I have not had to take a final in 2 years, and it's a wonderful thing. So yes, I'm getting an education, but it's not just in the classroom. I'm also doing research, which means that I'm in lab and I'm solving problems. I don't just get handed a recipe and sent to lab to see if it works again. I'm designing the recipe. I'm figuring out what the problems are in my area of research and trying to solve them and discover how we can make technology better, how we can learn more about science to help others and to help things get better in the future. And so it's very dynamic, it's very interesting, it changes every single day, and I love it because it's my own project, it's my own contribution to science, and it's something that's really special and really unique that only I get to do. I also go to a lot of meetings because I am still young, I'm still learning. There's a lot that I don't know, and so I get to have meetings with my advisor, who's a professor, and with my collaborator and with his professor. And we get to talk a lot about what those different problems are and how we might be able to solve them, because usually science takes a lot of different minds thinking together and trying to solve problems, because usually those problems are much bigger than one person can take on. I also get to do really fun things that are called professional development. And all that really means is I'm developing into a better professional. I'm trying to learn to communicate better. I'm trying to learn to be able to tell people about my science in a way that makes them excited and helps them understand. I get to go to conferences and travel around and get to tell other people about my science and hear about theirs. And I love doing things like that. I love doing outreach, getting to tell all of you about why science is amazing and why you should all be scientists and why you should consider this as a career. And I also get to do a lot of collaboration. Remember the whole I like to talk and I love people? Well, I love getting to work with other people on my science too, because then I get to hear other people's perspectives, because everyone has a different background and different knowledge that they bring to the table. So that's a lot, and I feel like I probably could have put many more little bubbles in that bowl, but that in a snapshot is what grad school is. It's different for everybody. It's different depending on the kind of science that you're studying, and every single day is a little bit different, which I personally enjoy. Now, my research is a little all over the place, kind of like grad school. I do a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of physics, some material science, and some engineering. And I get to collaborate. This is my collaborator, Chenyu. He is an optical engineer. And together, we're making tunable optics. Now, that's just kind of a fancy word for things like lasers, cameras, microscopes, and more. Now, the tunable part comes in because of electricity. How many of you ever heard of electricity or an electric field, anything like that? Okay, everybody. Did you know that you can move and control objects with electric fields? I didn't really know this before grad school, but I kind of feel like I am in some kind of science fiction movie sometimes when I'm talking about my science. Because if you watch this movie, do you see what happened? All those little nanowires just changed direction. And that's because I applied an electric field to them. So beyond just getting them to change their direction, I also can change the kind of particle that they are. I can change different things about them. And what that does is changes the way that light interacts with them. And so our hope and kind of the big picture goal of what we're doing is to be able to use these particles to make really small and cheap portable microscopes or other kinds of those tunable optics that could maybe just be attached to your cell phone. That way, in places like third world countries where medical devices tend to be really expensive and really hard to access, someone could maybe just take a microscope on their cell phone and be able to help people with their needs. Now, my favorite thing about my research is 5, maybe 10 years ago, I never in a million years would have imagined that I would be a scientist, that I would be in grad school. I didn't even know what grad school was, or that I would be doing anything like this. And I think it's because in my mind, when I was your age, I had a picture of what it looked like to become a scientist. And I think I probably thought it looked a little something like this. So of course, if you're going to become a scientist, you have to know what you're doing by the time you're in like kindergarten. You need to understand exactly what you're passionate about. And then of course, by the time you hit high school, you've probably decided on your major, all your career plans. You've got your whole life figured out by the time you're 18, right? Because then you just go to you go to undergrad, you get your degree, you build an amazing resume, you apply for grad schools, head off to grad school, and then, just become an expert and work happily ever after. I mean, how else do you become a scientist? Well, if this is your journey, that's amazing, but that was not mine, not even a little bit. My journey looked a little something more like this. All over the place. If you start to read the words that are represented here, I changed my mind a million times. When I was really young, I wanted to be an astronaut, maybe a teacher, maybe a pilot. I had no idea. I got a little bit older and I thought, maybe I want to be a fashion designer or a chef. I really like to cook. That might be fun. I got a little older and I liked playing with makeup, so maybe I wanted to be a makeup designer, maybe a business owner. And then I got into further in high school and I remembered, I really like people. Maybe I should be a counselor. So I thought I was going to go to school for psychology and become a family counselor. Well, as the time got closer to apply for undergrad, I realized I didn't actually want to counsel people. I just liked people. So then I was back at square one and I was thinking, I've got to figure out what I want to do with my life. So I started thinking about the classes that I enjoyed, and that idea of wanting to help people was always in the back of my mind. So I finally decided I'm going to be a pharmacist. That will combine science. I enjoyed my science class in high school, and then I could be able to help people. So I started school at Penn State University, which is my alma mater, and I joined the pharmacy club. I jumped all the way in. This is us at a Habitat for Humanity build. And by the end of my first semester of undergrad, I had developed a 10-year plan. I wasn't messing around. I was gonna make sure that I would be the best pharmacist. So I had it all planned out. I was gonna build an amazing resume. I was going to go to pharmacy school, go and get a residency so I could do specialized pharmacy. I knew where I wanted to get a job. I mean, you name it, I had thought about it, I had it planned out. So then I ran into a small, tiny, inconvenient little problem. I didn't like pharmacy, not even a little bit. In fact, I kind of hated it. It's a great field, but I would go to the pharmacies and I would start shadowing the pharmacists, and I would just watch the clock. And it would tick really, really slowly. And I started to realize, maybe this isn't the best fit for me. Because when I started doing research in the chemistry department, I was that kid that the professor had to kick out of the lab. He would say, go home, see your family, they probably haven't seen you in a while. Eat some food, why are you always here? But I loved it. I loved getting to discover and learn, and it was so different from anything I had imagined science to be, because I had had a lot of those science stereotypes I showed you at the beginning. I had no idea it could be such a fascinating world. And so I started on a new journey, one where I didn't make a 10-year plan, one where I decided, what am I passionate about? And I decided to just start discovering and exploring those things. As I said, I started doing research. This is me and my group presenting our very first research project. I started learning more about chemical instrumentation and what those things could be used for. I started doing outreach and teaching kids about science and getting to show them demos where things changed colors and did all kinds of fun things, and I loved it. I loved teaching. I loved getting to be part of things like that. And so I wanted more. I wanted to know, okay, do I want to go to grad school? How can I figure this out? So I applied for and got accepted into a research experience for undergraduates program, or an REU program, which is funded by the National Science Foundation. And the basics of the program is that you get to go to a completely different school for the summer, and you get to travel to this new location, work with new people, and work on an entirely new project. So that's what I did. I started to work on quantum dots. Now, I had no idea what quantum dots were at that time, but it turns out they're pretty cool. They're these little tiny nanoparticles, and if you change the size of the particle, it actually changes the color. And that's why you see all these different colors represented in that picture. I actually made all of these, and that's my favorite picture from that whole project. And they can be used in a lot of different things because of their tunability. They can be used for things like solar cells or even lasers. My favorite application right now is that you can actually go and buy a TV that used quantum dots to make it, because they're really bright and they make really nice pixels. And so I just think that's really cool that there's something that's really real in a store right now with things that I used to make. So I was learning a lot. I was learning a lot about a different kind of science that I'd never done before. And this science actually helped me decide what I wanted to do in grad school. But unfortunately, there also were some challenges to this experience, and that was because of the environment that I was working in. The professor was very hands-off, and what I mean by that is she really wasn't interacting with the people in her group at all. She didn't really talk to us, we didn't really see much of her, she was always traveling and always gone. So I couldn't really ask her questions or learn from her. I was instead learning from a grad student, which was fine, except this professor was still putting a lot of pressure on us. I was just an undergrad, I was 19 at the time, but she wanted no excuses. She wanted results, she wanted them to be good, and she wanted them to be done yesterday. And that's hard. It's hard working in an environment where you feel like you're not measuring up. I was doing okay, but unfortunately, through this experience, I discovered that the grad student I was working with didn't really have very good scientific integrity. And what that just means is he didn't want to be honest about the science he was doing. And what he tried to convince me to do was to lie about the results that I was getting so that we would have a better result to give to the professor. And I just knew I couldn't do that. I couldn't believe that that was what he wanted me to do in that moment. And so I told him, no, I won't lie. I'm not going to pretend that my results are different from what they are. It's the truth. And so he said, well, then I'm not really going to help you with the rest of this project. Good luck. So there I was at a different university on a project that I was just learning about, The summer was almost over, and I was on my own. So I had a couple different options before me in that moment. I could have just done what the grad student said. It would have been his fault, right? I could have just gone along with it and done the easy thing. But I knew I wouldn't do that. I could have just given up and said, well, it is what it is. It's not my fault. There's nothing more I can do. But I decided in that moment that I was going to see if I could make a difference in my project and just see where I could take it. And so I started working really hard by myself, doing more experiments, staying later in the lab, and really pushing myself to see what could happen. And I ended up with actually really good results. I was so excited at the end of summer because I got to present work that I had figured out. I had figured out problems and solved them on my own. I was an undergrad and I was doing graduate level work. And it was in that moment that I realized, you know what? I can handle grad school. I don't want to work in a group like this, but I can do things that I had no idea that I was able to do. And I learned an important lesson in that summer is that your choices can often determine your experience. If you're willing to work hard and stay true to yourself, you'll be able to overcome a lot more obstacles than what you ever thought you would be able to do. Now, thankfully, after that program, the following summer, I did another REU program, and I had an amazing experience. The group was amazing, the science was amazing, and I actually almost ended up going there for grad school, but Penn State won me over. And I learned so many lessons along the way, and that's mostly what I want to convey today is that when you take the time to discover what you love and explore different ideas, you walk away with, I think, more valuable knowledge than if you just make a plan and stick to it no matter what. Through those different experiences, I really learned what I wanted and what I didn't want in my grad school experience. I want to be a professor someday, and I realized that there were things about being a professor that were really important. I never want to have a student feel like they are under so much pressure that they have to lie or do things that are dishonest. I want students to feel empowered to be the best scientists that they can be and produce the best results that they can. And I realized that I could be an advocate for myself and for others. You don't have to give up any part of who you are to be a scientist. Remember that big word blob of all the different things that I explored and all the different things I was interested in? Those things are still here. I still love to cook. I cook every single week for myself, and I love making up recipes and changing recipes and buying different ingredients. I love playing with makeup. I 100% admit that if I walk into Ulta for one item, I will stay in there for an hour just lost playing with all the different colors because I think it's so fun. I love exploring that creative aspect. I still love being active and getting to enjoy the outdoors. I love going hiking and kayaking and going to the gym and taking care of my fitness. I am a scientist, but that's not all that I am. It's just the career that I'm pursuing, and it is something that I'm passionate about, but there's so much more. And that's true of each of you. So I hope you realize that it's okay to not know. It's okay to sit in these seats and go throughout your whole day and end your day and go, you know, I still don't know what I want to do. You got time. I'm still figuring out what I want to do. You'll discover as you go, just figure out what you're excited about. If something catches your attention today, explore it a little bit more. Worst case scenario, you'll have a situation like what happened with me in pharmacy where we realized that it just wasn't going to work out. But I got to head in a direction that I was passionate about through that experience. Just find your own path, relax, and enjoy it. And you'll find that sometimes those bends in the road that you weren't expecting are the most fun and impactful part of your whole journey. So thank you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.